Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Kelly. Bonjour, good evening. For those of you that don't know me, my name is John Foran, and I've been around the Miramichi for almost 60 years, and was just away 1 year of my life. I was a member of the legislature. I was a member of the Legislative Assembly for 7 years, but before that, I did have a real job. I was a police officer in Miramichi and the town of Chatham for 28 years. So this is more than just about being a retired politician or, I guess, a forced retirement politician. Anyway, I was so glad to see Mike Murphy here tonight because Mike was the Minister of Health when I was in Fredericton. And I remember that dealing with Mike on issues about the Miramichi and with Bill Fraser and Rick Brewer and Colonel Roby Show. And basically, when I think back, you know, we screwed up a lot of files. There's no doubt about it. We got defeated over it. You know, the Liberal government got defeated. There's no doubt about that, you know. But one thing we didn't screw up was health care. And when I think back, you know, some of the major things that we did was, first of all, we kept our regional status. And that just isn't just a sign over the hospital. We kept and we improved the services, you know. Mike spoke about the trauma level 3, which we have today. And I'm very, very fearful that we're going to lose that. Lots of times when governments, I've been there and done it, folk rooms are just trying to get the reaction of the people. But we kept our regional status. We increased pediatrics. We increased oncology services. We doubled the size of the dialysis clinic. We made Miramichi one of the hospitals that's going to be part of the medical school. And I can't speak to that, but I'm sure people like Dr. Sanjay and Dr. Loja can speak what that means for the Miramichi, to be part of the medical school where students are going to be training here basically year-round. And the regional headquarters was put here in Miramichi. And what a fight we had over that. Mike, if you remember that, you know, there were supposed to be 50 employees. I think today we still only have about 25. I remember getting an email from Mike's office that his assistant had got from Don Peters, that he couldn't get the people to move to the Miramichi. Well, in my estimation, they should have been damn well told your job is in Miramichi. How you get there, where you sleep when you're there, that's your business, but your job is 9 to 5, Monday to Friday in Miramichi. And that didn't happen.
That's right. Yeah.
It's still here. For how long, I don't know. I do know that we called tenders for the regional headquarters. The tenders were called, it was awarded by the previous government, and to my understanding, the latest government has canceled that tender. So what does that tell you? You know, we're probably going to lose our regional headquarters down the road. We're talking about what Dr. Sanjay said about bureaucrats. The hardest thing I ever did in life was deal with bureaucrats. And there's no doubt in my mind the whole time that I was in Fredericton, and I guess we're just talking health tonight, but most departments, the bureaucrats have an agenda, and be damned if they're going to listen to politicians if they can get around it, whether they got to go underneath them, they got to go over them, or go around them, or at the end of the day go through them. Their agenda's coming through. And I've always felt that in health care, Miramichi was not on their map. Their map is north and Bathurst, and I've always felt that. And I fought it every day, you know, but just couldn't win the battle, you know, and we're still fighting it here tonight. I remember in 2004, there was a big fight, as we all know, right here in the Miramichi to save our beds. I remember the member from Chatham at the time choked across the floor. Only for me, they were going to cut 122. Well, at the end of the day, folks, we still lost 27 beds, you know. We really didn't come out a winner in this game. And is that what they're trying to do this time? Get our, you know, hopes away, or I shouldn't say our hopes, but get us down to the dumps, way down, and then only cut half, you know. We should accept, I forget which person said it, but we should accept nothing less than the status we have now and continued increasement. I even remember going to, after Mike was shifted to Justice portfolio as the Minister of Justice and Attorney General, and the new Liberal Health Minister, I remember going to that minister and saying, you know, I really believe that your department has an agenda, and the agenda is to take the regional health quarters out of Miramichi and move it to St. John. And that minister was from the St. John greater region. And she said, well, what's wrong with that? So that's the kind of mentality you're dealing with in Fredericton. But I do know as a politician, I do know, or an ex-politician, that if you want to get results, you got to threaten them. and you got to threaten them with their seat. And you can't wait till the next election. And whoever said it here earlier, you know, all it's going to take is, I believe it was former Minister Murphy said that for Robert Travers and Jake Stewart and Serge Robichaud to go into the Premier's office and say, look, our seats are on the line here in Miramichi. Now you're putting us in jeopardy. What are you going to do about it? You know, that's the kind of representation that we need in Fredericton. And I'm very, very disappointed that our MLAs, the three of them, didn't show up here tonight. It's not always pleasant being in Miramichi and having to show up and face the crowd like this. I know what Miramichiers can be like. I can remember way back, I think it was in the 60s or early 70s, the FENCO report. Some of you people will remember that, you know? So it's not nice, but when you're elected, your job is to do that. Bill Fraser, I'm sure Bill remembers the day that him and I had to go to the Lions Center in Newcastle over a pretty hot issue. And didn't think we were going to get out of there with our lives. We did, but we came close. So, you know, it's not always pleasant to have to do your job, but you have to do it. And I know, and in that meeting I'm talking about with Bill, we weren't even invited to that. We just showed up. I don't think you have to be invited. It's your job to be here, to represent the people, you know. Now, just remember, in 2004, and we had a beautiful hospital in the Miramichi, and we owe such a debt of gratitude to Frank McKenna, because if we hadn't had a premier representing this area, and a premier that stood up to the bureaucrats and said that Miramichi will get their own regional hospital, we'd have probably had maybe what they're trying to do now, a nursing home with a first aid post attached to it, you know, but we certainly wouldn't have a regional hospital. I think we owe Frank McKenna a lot for that, but you have to remember, the premier of the day, Bernard Lord, guess who was in his cabinet? Guess who was one of his cabinet ministers? The premier today, David Alward, was in his cabinet. And they were taking the hospital out of Woodstock. And believe it or not, they were moving it next door to Carrollton, which was represented by the premier's lieutenant. And David Alward didn't stand up for his own hospital. So what do you think he's going to do for Miramichi? Do you think he's really going to be there for us?
No.
No way. You know, he's not going to be there for us. So remember that. So what we have to do is we have to bat, and I think a special thank you goes out to Kelly for organizing this tonight. Kelly, thank you. Dr. Sanjay and Dr. Lozier for never giving up. I remember, Dr. Sanjay, you meeting with Bill Fraser and I time after time after time in 2004, and I'm sure you're doing the same with the politicians today, keeping people fired up. But if we don't fill some cars, if we don't fill some buses, if we don't show up at the legislature, they're not going to take us very seriously. And we do want to be taken seriously. Dr. Lozier, thank you so much for explaining exactly what this means, because until I come here tonight, I wasn't 100% sure. I now understand what the ultimate level of care versus the acute care beds, and how we do end up with the same number of beds, but at the same time they're not being used for acute level, you know. I tested the health care myself over probably 7 or 8 years ago, and other members of my family and friends, and we do appreciate the health care that we get here. I only want to see it get better because I'm going up in years, not going down. There's no reversal. You know, and again, I go back to 2004. I remember being accused of fear-mongering like Bill is being accused now. And it was true. They thought we were fear-mongering. But at the end of the day, what was true was we lost 27 beds from this hospital. We should never have lost them, and we can't afford to lose any more. To the other members of the panel, thank you for being here tonight. To the people in the audience here tonight, I think that we have to make some kind of a commitment to be in Fredericton on the 23rd. Because these people at the head table in the front row, they can't do it alone. Also, we need strong, strong representation from our mayor and council. And not just the city of Miramichi, but, you know, from Niguac, from Rogersville, from Goattown, from Boys Town, from Blackville, from our First Nations community. We need those people to step up and represent the communities and the people that are in them and say we want to keep our regional status. And again, not just the word regional or regional on the sign. We want to keep the services that are a regional hospital. And I hope we're not sitting here in another couple of years saying, oh my goodness, well, we didn't do too bad. We lost our trauma center, you know, but they gave us something else, and now we're fighting again. We should draw the line in the sand here, Rich. Now, this should be the beachhead, and we should dig in, and the only way we can do it is we've got to stand united. So I think we all have to get over to Fredericton on the 23rd. And I know it's so hard for people always find some excuse to do something else. But in 2004, when I was in the opposition in the legislature, we had a crowd of, I think it was 3,000 or 4,000 people out front. We need that again. So folks, let's see you in Fredericton. I'm going to be there. Thank you.
Thank you, John. If there's no more questions from the floor, we'll close the meeting. I want to thank all the guest speakers. I want to thank the public for coming. And I encourage you all to give Robert Travers a call and ask him when his meeting's going to be with the facts and figures, and make sure he gives us all an invitation so we can ask the questions we didn't get to tonight. Thank you. Thanks, guys.